Well, eNCA reporter Karyn Maughn has been following that story closely. She joins me now in studio. Good afternoon, Karyn. Well, first things first, we mentioned here that it is interesting that Louca is back in South Africa shortly after Krejcir, the boss, Radovan Krejcir's story, and the questions being asked here, if the two cases are linked, what's your take on this?
Well, we know that Radovan Krejcir and George Louca were associates, and some might even say friends, for quite some time. I mean, they met when Radovan Krejcir was first arrested, when he first came into South Africa under that fake identity document, and they were in prison together, and they formed this friendship. And Louca really has a very integral involvement and an understanding of Krejcir's alleged activities in South Africa. What makes it very interesting is that I think Louca was presented with an opportunity to appeal a court decision that he be extradited back to South Africa. He chose not to appeal that, and I think that decision may have in part been driven by the fact that Radovan Krejcir was behind bars, and that perhaps potential anxieties that he had about potentially implicating Krejcir, who has been long linked to this particular murder, may have been abated by the fact that Krejcir is behind bars, and the police seem to be taking real steps against him. And also, I think very importantly, a number of police officers have been arrested for alleged involvement with Krejcir, and there seems to be a very strong rhetoric from the police that they will root out elements that they accuse of assisting Radovan Krejcir in his alleged criminal activities.
Does this then raise questions around Louca possibly being offered some sort of deal? Because it would seem that as a witness, he's going to play a very integral role and possibly tying in a number of other cases.
The state has to charge him, and they're going to charge him tomorrow, and he is going to appear in court. But we know that, he has throughout this process, in conversations to me, in conversations to other people, said, listen, I was there. I saw what went down. There were a number of people there. Look at Lolly Jackson's body. There are bullets from 2 different guns. I did not do this, but I want to come back to South Africa. I want to explain what happened. I just want protection. So that has been his rhetoric throughout. And I think, the fact of the matter is that we are dealing with someone who, for the vast majority of his adult life, had a profound drug problem. And from my discussions with him, I often marveled at the fact that this individual could even be conceived as a cold-blooded assassin. He isn't that person. But I think he has a lot of very important information, and I think the real question is now, does he get offered a 204 deal in which he walks away without any kind of record, and he does, he agrees to give evidence against those he blames for this and then walks away? We know the NPA is very skittish about those kind of things. Or does he do a 105A plea and sentence deal where he gets, for instance, 10 years or 8 years, depending on what he says his role was, in exchange for his evidence? And the NPA is going to have to play their cards very, very carefully here, because whoever he accuses will make much of the fact that a deal has been done, and they will make much of the fact that it was clearly in his interests to do that deal. So they have to be very, very careful. They have to make sure that they can get sufficient evidence from him and that he can lead them in the direction that they can bolster this case, that 3 years later, finally, someone can be convicted for the murder of Lolly Jackson.
Now, the fact that his location is being kept secret, does that speak to there being a potential threat to his life? Because it would seem that he is about to play a very integral role in this case and in the situation.
I think absolutely, because in my conversations with him, he always reiterated his fear. He said, I want to come back to South Africa, but I want to be protected. And I think, the police are not naive. We have seen the cases around Radovan Krejcir being intensified in terms of the security concerns that they have. And we have a case currently against Krejcir and a number of associates, including several police officers, in which, the allegation is made that he attempted to, or that various individuals involved in the investigation were the targets of potential hits. He hasn't been linked to that case, but there's definitely an atmosphere being created around this case and other cases that there really are anxieties. And it's manifestly apparent from the fact that, a number of police officers have been arrested, that there are valid reasons to be concerned. My understanding is that a very tiny group, very, very tiny group within the police force actually know where he is. And that information will be kept secret because they cannot afford to have something happen to him because he's the linchpin. And if they have any hope of solving this case, they will secure his cooperation and they will keep him safe.
Well, he is back in the country now, so the story continues, and all we can do is keep watching. Karyn Maughn, thank you so much for your time. That's eNCA reporter Karyn Maughn.
eNCA.com.